What I've seen, Rodney, other cultures do, they take a policy to our lawmakers, and it may be tweaked. Oftentimes,
Mm-hmm.
African Americans, we don't do that. We
Mm-hmm.
say what we want, and we leave it up to those particular lawmakers to do that. And so we've been really successful in trying to craft something and taking it to individuals and getting them to take a look at it. And of
Right.
course, it may be broke up, but from a policy standpoint, that is what we have to do from a policy standpoint, write our own policy. And we've tried that on the federal level,
Mm-hmm.
local level, and we've been
Mm-hmm.
successful and we failed in some places.
Greetings, my posse. Welcome to the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney. This is Rodney J. Littles.
I am Rodney Butler. Rodney, it is great to have another episode to where, well, you know what? I think maybe on this platform, it may be our first episode where we had a locally owned, black-owned business owner
Yeah, I think you're right.
on
On this show,
on the
for sure.
roundup. Yeah, on
Yeah, on
this
the
on this
Roundup.
one.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just cannot wait until until you bring this gentleman out. So without further ado, Rodney, because I know this is a very very busy man. So
Yes,
without further
sir.
ado, let's get ready to bring him on, brother.
Well, I am so happy to have Brother Omar Ali, president and founder of Ali Development Corp. and Steel Fabrication Exponents. And we interrupted his vacation, and we're so happy he made time to be with us. We're excited to have him. I met him under the Capitol when we were working with State Rep Roger Bruce on the Minority Supply Development Bill. Man, about 6 years ago, right?
I think it was closer to 8 years ago,
You
Rodney.
know, you may be right. That's right. That's right. Because you still have the steel fabrication location. Yes,
That's correct.
that's
Rodney,
right.
anytime you call, brother, I'm here no matter what.
Oh man, please. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you vacationing right now? Because I'm jealous.
I have the whole family down here in the Carousel. We decided to take 10 days down here and just
Beautiful,
relax and be on the beach.
beautiful, beautiful. Well, you enjoy, my brother. We really appreciate you taking the time. Because it's not about making money, it's about informing the public about what you're about and your message, man. So come on,
Absolutely.
tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Where your family from, and what are your roots, and how did you get into business?
So born and raised in Griffin, Georgia, Rodney. You know my father very well. My father had a unique way of raising us that we all had to start our own business. So I'm one of those guys that I tell people that I am a country boy. Close enough to the city, I have to have land away from the city so I can raise the kids down there. But born
Beautiful,
and raised in Griffin, Georgia, I've owned my company now. Oof. You know what, Rodney? I've never worked for anyone other than my father my
beautiful.
my entire life. And
That's great.
once I transitioned from his company, that's when I created my own company. And so the only thing that we know is entrepreneurship in our family and adding to the family legacy.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So tell us a little about why you chose the industries that you're in.
So when it comes to the structural steel fabrication, there is only 2% of blacks in the steel fabrication industry, number one. And so
Hmm.
I wanted to figure out how do I develop a company that don't have blacks and take advantage of some of the programs that the federal government have. My
Hmm.
first company when I was 24 years old, right now I say this quite a bit, young and naive, I had to file bankruptcy for the first company. Second company, 2008 market crash. But the
Oh,
third
yes.
time, we hit a home run, and before you know it, we was operating in over 18 different countries. I grew my company up to 70 million. We did the American Embassy of Tajikistan, Pakistan, London, Frankfurt, Germany, China, you name it. 18 countries that we operated in for the US government with a total of 180 employees. And so
Nice.
working on the federal side with the OBO, which is Overseas Building Operation and Department of State, we know that very, very well. It wasn't until recently under the Trump administration that forced me to decommission my steel plant in Atlanta
Hmm.
in a wholly
Hmm.
owned subsidiary in Tecate, Mexico. And that's when I
Hmm.
moved the company over into commercial real estate development.
Okay. Yes, yes. Ali Development Corp. I had the
Mhm.
opportunity to visit Rodney when he was finishing the improvements in the ballroom,
Yeah,
and he renovated a whole square block. Uh, Beautiful old building. Now, what was that building before you got in there? Tell us a little bit about the development.
it was a church and a school originally built in 1923.
Okay.
It burnt down, then they rebuilt it in 1943. And so my idea was everyone always talk about gentrification. How do you stop that?
Right.
So we wanted
Right.
to put our money where our mouth is. And so we started buying property in the hood. What can we
Okay.
do to bring economics back into the neighborhoods? Start
Right.
with economics first, businesses, and those
Right.
businesses would then lead to homes in the particular neighborhood. And so we
Right.
generally like to do developments anywhere from 6 million up to about 43 million. And so the
Nice.
building that we met at was 30,000 square feet building.
Yes,
We
sir.
have now there's over 15 different businesses in that particular location, 70 people working in the community.
Beautiful.
That's the way that you should do it. And wait till you
That's
hear phase two.
come on now. We're gonna do it right here. Talk to me.
So
Bring it.
phase two, the city just released the RFP, which we have to bid for it. We are
Okay.
going to build, if successful with it, we're going to build 180 apartment complex, which 30% are going to be affordable, and then we're going to
Nice.
do 15,000 square foot retail component on the lower level. And we
Beautiful.
already have letters of commitments from grocery operators, restaurants. It's going to give us 1 square block in the Lakewood, Atlanta area. And our
Lakewood.
model is, yeah,
Nice.
Yes.
many people don't realize how devastated Lakewood. When we first came there,
Right.
Rodney, it was 80% lack of business there. All of
Hmm.
the buildings were deprived. It only had 20% operating businesses there. And then when it came to the residential components, only 50% of the homes were literally occupied in Lakewood. The rest of them
Wow.
was blighted and vacant. And
Right.
so we were the first people to come into that neighborhood, and now things are turning around. Right down the street from us, you have other developers doing $300 million developments. And so we got in right at the
Right
opportune time.
time. Excellent.
Mhm.
Excellent. Wow. So what led you to do real estate? Did you have any experience in it at all, or how did you just decide to
You
jump
know,
into real estate?
I get asked that question all the time, and people are like, how did you do that without going to school? And I tell them, once you reach a certain level, it's just applying what you know, your tenacity to the next thing. This is no different how
Right.
somebody from the CEO of Ford can go and operate Delta. He don't know anything about planes. The
Right.
same thing. And so my building that over in East Point where we first met.
Yes, sir.
So I purchased that particular building. I'm going to just give you the numbers. I purchased it for $360,000, renovated, only put $200,000 into it. And somebody came along and made an offer of 1.5 million. I was like, okay, this is easier than what I thought. So I ended up selling that particular building, but that's when the light bulb went off when I had to decommission the steel plant. I was like,
Yeah.
I know I can do real estate. I just had a successful go at it. Let me see how I can scale that much
Okay.
bigger.
Yeah.
And not to be one of those people, the real estate with African American with blacks have a bad name because everyone want to be fits and flippers or just outright
Yes.
liars to where they're prying on the community and they really don't understand real estate. So we want to show people the right way to do it. Buy commercial properties, hold on to it. We're not flipping anything
Right.
when it comes to those type of projects. And so I love it. And let me
That
add this, what really feels
go
good
right
about
ahead.
we can determine what shapes a neighborhood. And
Okay.
that feels really, really good. The bank told us when we first came to the neighborhood when we wanted to get a loan, why don't we do a community center? And we told them, we don't need any more community centers. We have a YMCA right around the corner. And
Right.
so they denied us a loan. But
Wow.
we have our own money, we have our own wealth. And so we started building with our own money. And I
Nice.
kid you not, Rodney, 60% through the bank came and said, you know what? Let us loan you the money because they needed to make loans to blacks at that particular time. Once
Right.
it well we was doing. Mhm.
So you put your foot forward and said, "We're not going to stop."
Absolutely. Yeah. I love
Excellent.
it. Yeah.
Excellent. 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 So what would you tell young people, being as you grew up in this particular
hmm
mindset from your family? I have a history through my family being in business, so I'm
hmm
familiar with the philosophy. So tell me.
I would say do not be afraid to fail. Just like I
Hmm.
mentioned that my first two companies failed, we filed bankruptcy with that. Do not be afraid to fail with it. And more importantly, you have to understand that if you fail at your business, you are still the last person to cut your lights off. And
Mm,
so take that particular risk. And if you know the numbers, Rodney, if we're going to improve in the African American community, the only way that we're going to be able to do that, in my opinion, is through economics. Everything else is a symptom of the lack of economics. And when you study other communities, that's what it falls down to. And so there's 43 million blacks in the United States. Imagine if we taught our kids, 10% of our kids, to start their own business. That is 4.3 million businesses. An average business hires 3 employees. Black people generally hire black people. White people generally hire white people. Asian hire Asians. And so if we got 3 employees per 4.3 million, so
Mm,
that is 12.9 million businesses, 12.9 million employees we just
right,
created in our own community. And that
right.
is the way to go.
I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
So the philosophy of keeping money in the community and spending with your own folks is what you're talking about. Dr. King talked about that at the end of his life.
He did, but our community still make the mistake because they want to do 100% black. I think that's a flaw.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, even with our developments are going to be 67% African American tenants, 30% other, because we want everyone dollars coming to the community. That is
Mm-hmm.
the right way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
When you do everything 100% black, and I get a lot of gripe when I say this, you create a situation to where white people don't want to come, Asian people don't want to come. We don't want that. We want everyone to come and spend their dollars with the majority African Americans. No different than it's done in other places. And if you want to create a development, you have to think that particular way and it has to be done that way.
Well, do you think the climate in the country right now would support that philosophy?
It's a difficult I was actually scared at one particular point, like, am I creating a situation to where I'm going to become a target?
Mm,
Or will my developments become a target just because I
mm-hmm.
want to do right for my people?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the Fearless Fund, you can't help but to think that because what happened to those brilliant black women, we have to prepare for the worst. And so we just have to just be smart about it when we're doing it.
I got you. I got you. I
Yeah,
got you.
but this administration, we understand.
Yes, 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 yes. So, when looking at the local environment, how do you see things going with the local economy in the near term?
So if we want to break it down from Georgia to the city of Atlanta, the one thing that Georgia has done exceptional well is business. We can't
Yes,
take that away from Georgia, whether it's being led by Republicans or Democrats.
that's correct.
It's always done a wonderful job with that.
Yes.
The city of Atlanta has done a wonderful job with that as well. And so I think the local economy here in Georgia, we are still going to strive. It's going to continue to grow. I do think Georgia can do more with minorities, and we know the numbers on that. We're not doing a great job with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
city of Atlanta is doing a better job, but they can be doing a better job. But Rodney, when you look at all the local black municipalities throughout the entire state, we can point the finger at all of them. They all should be doing better for minorities.
I got you. I got you.
Mm,
In terms of public policy, because like I said, I met you up under the Capitol
mm,
during the days that State Rep Bruce
mm,
and others were trying to get this minority business initiative done. And I want to personally, publicly thank you. Yo, Rodney, man, this young brother is very sharp.
No
He
doubt.
knows how to work across the aisle on both sides,
mm,
and he knows how to keep his eye on the prize. He was a very important cog in the wheel when we were trying to get this done at the state level. So tell me, my brother Omar,
mm.
how do you see it?
I tell everyone, I've talked to so many Democrats and I've talked to so many Republicans, and they just don't even have conversation with the other side. And I don't
Hmm.
understand that. To me, I break it down from the human element. If I have coffee with someone, if I get to know that particular person, it makes them think twice about saying no. And it
Hmm.
makes them think even longer about saying yes. And so that
Hmm.
is my philosophy. I don't care if that particular person is Republican or Democrat, and everyone know that we supported Governor Kemp with that, and we shifted a lot of black men to support Governor Kemp. And then, of course, when it came to the presidential race, we put 100% effort behind VP Harris. Unfortunately, VP Harris didn't win. But if we want to move things forward, we have to understand that we have to have a bipartisan mindset. That's not to say that the Republicans are not doing anything bad. We know the things that they're doing bad. And the same thing for the Democrats. So my philosophy is that stay in the middle. There's room for improvement on both sides. And I have to tell people here in Georgia that the Democrats controlled everything up to 2003. Now, the Republicans are controlling it, and neither side didn't do anything. But we have great local people, great singular people like Roger Bruce and other people who tried to fight, but they couldn't coalesce because they didn't have enough support, even on both sides at one particular point. Now
Right.
things change. And so just stay in the middle, and we have to advocate for economics, in my opinion. Just stay focused on that.
Well, I just like I'm glad you brought that up in the discussion tonight because you're right. Back in the day before the Republicans took over, the Democrats were controlling the state, but those were the Dixiecrats.
Mhm.
Those were the folks who were anti-abolitionists, if you will,
Mhm.
descendants. So, but what they did was it was shrewd. Don't get me wrong. They switched over at one point and took over the Republican Party. So it's
Yeah.
the same people that didn't do squat for us. It's just they're in a different party right now.
Hmm.
Exactly.
That's what
Yeah.
happened here. I mean,
No, no,
I'm a
I
little.
get it.
I know you know.
Yeah.
I know
Absolutely.
you know. I know you know. So, what would you advise our black businesses that they need to be looking at doing in order to influence public
Mhm.
policy to benefit them? You've been in the game.
Yeah.
You've created a PAC. I know you've been very heavy
Mhm.
in lobbying for important issues that affect our community. So tell me, what would you advise, and how could we help as a black business community with that effort?
What I've seen, Rodney, other cultures do, they take a policy to our lawmakers, and it may be tweaked.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, African Americans, we don't do that. We
Mm-hmm.
say what we want, and we leave it up to those particular lawmakers to do that. So we've been really successful at trying to craft something and taking it to individuals and getting them to take a look at it. And of
Right.
course, it may be broke up, but from a policy standpoint, that is what we have to do from a policy standpoint, write our own policy. And we've tried that on the federal level,
Mm-hmm.
local level, and we've
Mm-hmm.
been successful and we failed in some places.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I do understand is that I feel that in order for us to move forward, we have to be willing to vote for the right candidate. And the majority of the time, that is going to be Democrat. And then sometimes it's going to be Republican. So we have to vote both ways. When you do that, you see a huge shift. And this is one of the reasons that we were extremely successful at moving 17% of the black male vote in the middle. And no matter, Rodney, when I tell you, and I'm more vocal about this now, 70% of the time, whatever direction we tell them to vote in, they vote in that direction. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the
Mm-hmm.
only the only time that it didn't meet that was for VP Harris.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very difficult to figure out why didn't that happen. After we
Mm-hmm.
started doing research, it just was a lot of infighting within the state
Mm.
of Georgia.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay.
yeah.
Well, I'm sure that was on purpose.
When you look back at it, it doesn't make sense. We got one objective. Why are we fighting amongst each other as Democrats? It makes no sense.
But you know this story, bro. In Georgia, you don't enroll in a party. You
Hmm.
register as a voter. So you could tell me I'm a Republican, you're a Republican today, and tomorrow you could tell me you're Democrat because there's no way to verify it
Yeah.
because you don't enroll at the Board of Elections as a Democrat or Republican. And that's the fundamental problem
Yeah.
I've learned coming south, having worked in a different, system, a closed primary system, how that has affected blacks' ability to actually have the impact that they could have, particularly in a
Hmm.
state like Georgia. If you look at the Southern Confederate states, Brother Rodney, tell me what the story is, because you told me about it. Where should we be focusing on initiatives in this country if we're going to make a change as black folks? Brother Butler, tell me where.
Locally, brother.
Mm.
Locally, and in the South.
Yes.
Locally, no matter where you are, but even if you are, no matter where you are in the country, because it's where our people are. It is. There's a migration here to the South. It's been that way for the last
Mhm.
25, 30 years, and but yeah, yes, sir.
Rod, it's funny that you mentioned that. I did a post the other day and I highlighted the areas in the state of Georgia that has the highest income for blacks.
Okay.
And a lot of those, Tyrone was one of them.
Mm,
But we have blacks want to move to Buckhead, blacks want to move to some of the white areas, but you have these particular pockets, and the school system are phenomenal, you know? And so
Yes.
why not invest in those particular local politics down there? Because a lot of these places are still run by the other, let's just put it that way. But if we focus in those particular areas, we can make it even a better outcome. And so locally is where I love to focus at.
Right.
I rarely try to get involved federal level, but the last election I had to get involved to try to help people.
Understood.
Right.
Understood. So how can folks reach out to your initiative to join it as it relates to the business owners that you've been cultivating and giving opportunity to be have their voices heard?
Well, Rodney, before Omar started giving his plugs, there's a couple of things. I don't have any questions,
Go ahead,
but
man.
there's definitely a couple of areas, and Omar, feel definitely free to chime in on
Okay.
any of these things that I'm gonna. So these are more or less statements. I really just do want to reiterate, when you talked about. So in our community, we seem to have a problem with business and politics and where they cross, right?
Right.
I just really like the way that you, as a successful businessman,
Mm.
you have let this community know, the Black Man's Roundtable community know that, look, I say all the time, Rodney will tell you, I say on this platform all the time, if you don't do politics, politics will do you.
Yeah.
And,
That's
and,
right.
and what I'm saying to you, brother, is I love the way that you, a successful businessman, Black-owned business person, how you are involved politically. And I
Hmm.
just hope that those brothers and sisters out there who listen to what you said, I hope that they take that in consideration, because people are always telling us, don't talk about what they always say, those two things not to talk about,
Religion.
politics and religion, right?
Yep.
They tell us not to do it, and that's all they do is
That's
talk
all
about
they do.
politics and religion.
That's right.
So I do just like the way that you show that, look, as a successful businessman, you better understand and know politics. I just wanted to say that one first, and if there's anything you wanted to add to that at all.
No, you're 100% correct. The movement that we started was birthed out of black men. They were upset, that they wasn't being heard by Democrats and being heard by Republicans. And when we did the survey with most of the people that listen to follow us, the one fundamental thing that they care about is taking care of their family and community. That is
Hmm.
the core of our group. And before you knew it, 50,000 people followed us. Out of those 50,000, 94% are married.
Mm.
91% have kids, 30% have businesses. And so
Hmm.
we had leverage with almost 130,000 registered voters that were voting in a direction that we have. And what they wanted the most is to take care of their family and community. And once they understood the power that we can do locally, if you want to go down to Fort Valley, why is Fort Valley only doing 2% with blacks? Wait a second here.
Hmm.
That can't be the case. We got to figure this out. We got to change it and elect the right people locally, because economically it's going to move us to the next direction that we want to move in.
Great. And also, I just want to add to that before I let that one go, is that I also like the way that you talked about how we got to stop asking our politicians stuff. I'm one, right? And no, I'm one that says that in our community, we treat our politicians like clergy.
Mm.
It's like, that's not a preacher. Let me tell
Mm-mm.
you something. I elected you, and here's what you're gonna do. We
Hmm.
don't go asking them stuff. Tell
Mhm.
them what to do. And I like that you brought that, as well, is that we have to treat our politicians differently, because they demand from their politics. They say, here's what you're gonna do. And like I
Mhm.
said, we got to stop treating them like they're some kind of clergy and all of that. They are servants to us. We elected them. They work for us. So I like the way you said that. But also, I
Mhm.
like the way you pointed out. Go
Mhm.
ahead. I'm sorry.
I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say, most people have to remember that these are human beings that we're talking to, meaning a
Yeah.
lot of them are smart, but they're not capable as of yet of developing policies that we want. And so what they do is refer to their advisors. Who are their advisors? So let's just cut straight through all of the BS. I have it for you. You don't have to talk to your advisors. You don't have to try to figure it out. Just read this here. What can we get past? If we need to
That's
cut
right.
it, let's just figure it out, straight to it.
That's right.
A great brother that was a member of the Black Panthers once said, I don't care if you want to lynch me, but I do care if you have the power to lynch me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Good
sir.
point.
Yes, sir.
Good
So
point.
But also, I like the way you talked about. Again, I'm just pointing out some things that I'm just very intrigued. I think Rodney knew it. I'm very intrigued by I don't know, man, your ability to captive, to captive an audience in the things that you have to say. But I also like the way you talked about a third time as a charm to the young people.
Yes.
That's basically two strikes, third time you got it. I just wanted to reiterate that. But also, you talked about how we as a community, we like you said, you buying these buildings, you buying this real estate in the Black community and all of that, right? So it is, we always talking about, well, we want this, we want that in our community, we want this kind of restaurant, we want this kind of hotel or whatever. What we have to understand is that if we support and grow our own business owners like yourself, these people, I live in one of those communities where our residual income, or whatever, is higher than that of Buckhead, right? But however, it is a predominantly Black community, and
Okay.
so there are certain things that won't come here simply because we're Black, right? And so, and it's like, well, look, if we have Black developers out there, then all of these commissioners and local elected officials can stop talking about how they're going to get elected and bring this and that
Hmm.
to the community. Bring those business owners like yourself who understand real estate, who build things, and then guess what, they will come. And so I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, brother. When we first started doing development, we got calls, and I know this is gonna be laughable. We got calls from Church's Chicken, and we got a couple calls from Popeyes as well. But
Mm-hmm.
we own the dirt, so we could tell them no. You
That's right.
know,
Exactly.
That's
it
right.
doesn't matter what you're going to offer me. We don't want that in our development. We don't want it in the community. Eventually, the community is going to turn around, and the right stuff is going to be there. But more importantly, what we have been trying to educate people on is you don't want too much affordable. And
Exactly.
the reason why I say that is that if you have a neighborhood that only has affordable homes, now it's going to be difficult to get banks to come in that neighborhood. It's going to be difficult to get
Exactly.
grocery operators. You need a combination of both, at least 40% affordable and then market rate. And it's hard to tell our people that. And I know cost of living is very, very horrible this time. But when we go into a development, we're doing mixed income and we're
Right.
doing it the way that we want, and it thrives immediately that way.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
doubt I doubt very seriously if Rodney, I doubt very seriously if it's Black developers that are coming in putting all these gas stations and dollar stores, and so, but like I said, we can elect whoever we want, but like Omar pointed out so brilliantly, is that business and politics actually cross. A couple other things before we let you get out of here, brother, and I usually never have this much to say to one of our
Please.
guests,
Please.
but uh, also, I like the way that you talked about taking advantage of the federal programs that are
Hmm.
out there, for our people. I love that you reiterated that. And lastly, is that at the beginning you talked about generational wealth, right? Without saying the words. And I think that, we that's what happened with you. And wealth is not always measured in dollars and cents. Sometimes wealth is measured in wisdom and knowledge, right? And
Yes.
so I don't know if you got anything, uh, uh, passed down, from your father or from your parents or whatever, but that's not what important. But what you did point out is that you got this wealth of knowledge passed down, from your parents. So again, I just want to commend you on everything that you're doing,
Thank
and absolutely feel free to chime in on anything I said, because after
I
that,
did
the
forget
good
to
Rodney is
bring
going to make sure that you promote
one.
the things you're doing, brother.
Absolutely. One thing that we have in our family, and my father created this, which is phenomenal. We have a 300-year plan in our family. My father created a 300-year plan that taught me that it's not about me. It's about my kids, but more importantly, it's about their kids and their kids. And it's phenomenal because I would have never got the start I had if it wasn't for my father having his own business. That's a humongous leg up. And so the same thing is going to happen with my kids and their kids. And so for 300 years, we should be okay.
I tell you what, Rodney, he look, that brother said 300 years. You know, look, you need to call his family China because the United States, we operate on 10 years ahead of things, maybe 50 if, at best. China
Hmm.
operates on 300, 1,000 years ahead of where they want to be, you know, but also 300 years. 300 years is also significant. And that's what they said that the Willie Lynch theory would also do, that if you really practice the Willie Lynch theory, okay, everybody think Willie Lynch was a real person, but it was just a theory. If you practice that Willie Lynch theory, what did it guarantee? It guaranteed that in 300 years it would repeat itself, right? So I
That's
like
right,
your family's 300-year plan, Omar. Thanks for
brother. I
coming on, brother.
appreciate it. Yeah,
All right, my
Absolutely.
absolutely.
brother. So tell us how folks can reach you if they're interested in doing business, leasing space, or participating with your
Mhm.
business group.
Yeah, just email me directly at Omar, Omar, at thealidevelopment.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram. I just got on Instagram this year, so call me old school.
Right?
You can follow me at Omar Ali underscore OAA.
Great, great, great. Well, we appreciate you joining us. Please extend our feelings to your dad, our greetings and salutations to your dad. Tell him I asked about him.
I most certainly will, Rodney. Thank you for having me on, Rodney and Rodney. Thank you all both.
Look, brother, enjoy the rest of your vacation. You say you're in Cozumel or
Uh,
Carousel.
Carousel.
Carousel? Okay,
Carousel.
yeah.
Yeah, Caribbean
Enjoy
island.
Great.
Caribbean. Okay, I thought Mexico, but anyway, enjoy the rest of your vacation, brother. It was great having you on, and we look forward to having you back on again, Rodney. Great guest,
Thank you
man.
so much
Appreciate it.
for taking the time.
Thank you
Absolutely.
all.
All right. God bless.
Mhm.
Right, Rodney. Yeah, I was. I guess you say, man, Rodney never really have that much stuff. But Rodney, we have so many
Yes.
political guests on our
Yes.
show, and
Yes.
some of the other platforms we have a lot of mental health professionals and that kind of
Yes.
thing, and but we definitely are gearing back up our locally owned black business owners to come back on, or to start coming
Yes.
on. But I tell you, man, he said a mouthful. He really did say a mouthful as to what is. I'm always just, if there's one thing that just tweaks me, man, is it's I there's just so many mistakes and errors that we make in our community, as a
Uh-huh.
whole. And
Yeah.
this brother really, I really like what he's doing. I hope people
Yes.
listen to him, and I
Yes.
hope that that they look at this episode as intently as they do some of the other episodes we do.
Right.
The business stuff is just as important, and everybody want to be a millionaire overnight. Everybody,
Right.
it just does not come that way, and that's why
Doesn't
we're
work that
bringing
way.
these local business owners,
Yes.
back to the fold, Rodney. But anyway, I've said enough, brother.
I
I know
thought you'd
you have your
enjoy it.
hot topic, yeah, absolutely, and I know you have
Ooh.
your whole spotlight. Let's get this hot topic out of the way, Rodney. Let's knock it
Oh
out.
my gosh, bro.
It's a
So
doozy.
so so it's 3rd of July, and I'm sitting in my house in the AC because it was hot outside. And I'm thinking about, why would a descendant of chattel slavery celebrate the 4th of July? And then it dawned on me that I had played this video before and shared it with the family from an 1852 speech by Frederick Douglass.
That's right.
To what is the 4th of July to a slave? It's too long to read the whole thing, so I'm not going
Right.
to do that. There's just a couple of lines that I think are important,
Go ahead, sir.
and I'll explain to you before I get into why I felt this way.
Okay.
As my grandchildren are getting older, they're teenagers now, and I'm thinking about the future, and I'm saying, why would I not be straightforward with my children and grandchildren about why we should celebrate Juneteenth as our July 4th versus July 4th? And these are the words that hit me out of that entire speech that just brought me to where I am today for this topic. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and its crimes against God and man must be denounced. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I would say, what is to the descendants of chattel slavery to the 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals him more than all other days of the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. We're still a constant victim.
Yes, sir.
Frederick Douglass said, I continue, to him, your celebration is a sham. You boasted liberty, an unholy license, your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mocked, your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade in solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. This is 1852, relevant today. There is not a nation of the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. Go search where you will. Roam through all the monarchies and despots of the old world. Travel through South America. Search out every abuse. And when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation. And you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival. Without a rival. So my topic, bro, has to deal with this issue. That while 1852, these words sounded like they were just spoken last year by Kamala Harris,
Yep.
Vice President Harris running for the President of the United States, that the climate that we live in today brings me back to Frederick Douglass's words. So what has changed? The systems, the techniques, the tactics, but the path is still the same. We are not enjoying the joys of the 4th of July as it was exhibited in 1776. And as descendants of chattel slavery in this country, we are still experiencing that same mentality that disgraces this nation today, in my eyes. So that was my hot topic, Rodney.
Rodney, and I think it's becoming very apparent to the colonizers of this country that we no longer, slowly but surely, buy off into this this notion of freedom and independence as we used to. And this is why they want to roll everything back. This is why they want to take books out of the school and all that. But one of the things you hear me say all the time, Rodney, is that, you know what? You can't recall the internet.
No, sir.
It has made so many non-melanated people billions and millions and billions of dollars. But guess what? You can't roll it back. And so it's out there. And so Juneteenth, obviously, was something that Texans have always been, familiar with in this country. It definitely, over the past decade or so, has started, spreading throughout the African American community. It is something that I really started celebrating in my family in the very early 2000s.
Okay.
Even though I'm a Georgia guy,
Yes.
but I understood, what happened, in 1865 and 1867. You understand? And so,
Yes.
so it is something, like I said, that that we need to, like you said, what is freedom? What is freedom to a slave? And so, when we look at the words, some of the most poignant words of our leader ancestors, whether it was Dr. King, whether it was Frederick Douglass or Malcolm, or so many of them, Fannie Lou Hamer, to bring in some of the women, some of the great women of what we're doing. And, it was, when you look at it, Rodney, their most poignant speeches or talks were when they were unapologetically black, right? Now, that's when some people began to turn away from them, turn against them, even people that look like me and you. But like you're saying, that speech, what is the 4th of July to a slave? that speech, when you go, the reason they didn't take out excerpts from that speech like they did with the I Have a Dream speech, because
Hmm.
it fit their narrative so well to talk about, little children, and all that stuff. For my
Yes.
little children, that part was so famous about,
Right.
the I Have a Dream speech, which is the I Have a Dream part, which Mahalia Jackson asked him, say the I Have a
That's
Dream
right.
part.
That's
Well,
right.
but if you look at that speech, even the I Have a Dream speech, still staying on what Frederick Douglass did with this, what is the 4th of July to a slave speech. If you look at King's speech, the so-called I Have a Dream speech, it was about economics, man.
Yes,
That
sir.
entire speech mainly was about economics.
Yes, sir.
And once you start, just like with our guest that we just had on, okay, Omar, once you start mixing your business and your politics, was going to make your business very successful, which is also going to make your politics very successful, that's when people start to, sit up and notice. And as
Right.
soon as Dr. King, just like with Frederick Douglass with this speech, as soon as Dr. King made his so-called I Have a Dream speech, and it was about economics and everything else, we know shortly after that he was gone, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
so I just want to say that I commend these brothers and sisters, man, our ancestors, for making these great speeches. And Rodney, I am not surprised at all that you actually, wanted to talk about, what is the 4th of July to a slave, because, we've grown over the years to kind of know each other, what we're going to say. And so, look, I appreciate you bringing that to the table, that hot topic to the table.
Yes,
And
sir.
I recommend anybody that have not read that speech from Frederick Douglass to, it's long, but
Yep.
go and read it.
Yes,
It's not
sir.
longer than some of this stuff that we read on social media.
No. No.
So there you go.
There you go, my brother. Yes. So now the whole spotlight, we've been following the
Yeah.
budget process and the impact it has
Yes, sir.
on the country and on our state. Um, so the big, beautiful bill was signed into law on July 4th, 2025, as it had been requested by our president. And it's interesting because there's no truth in political speech anymore. You can say whatever you want, and folks ain't gonna read a 1,000-page bill to find out.
Nope.
So so you tell me, oh well, there's no tax on tips. Oh, but it expires. Oh, and it's not really a tax elimination. They're
That's
giving
right.
you a deduction
That's
that
right.
based upon a certain amount of money you make. After that, you don't get the deduction any longer, and it expires. So, yes, promises made and somewhat kept, but there's always a sleight of hand in there. So, tax reform. Let me go over some of the key points in the tax reform.
Okay.
It permanently extends the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was to expire at the end of this year.
The key word, permanently. Go ahead, Rodney.
There you go. That's for the wealthy. Increases the child tax credit from 2,000 to 2,200. Okay. Um, Creates a senior citizen deduction, $6,000 single, 12,000 married, phased out above 75,000 a year. A new deduction on tip income and overtime pay. It's not an elimination of tax, it's a deduction, and that has an expiration date. And if you make over 25,000, you don't get any more deduction. The cap of the state tax cap raised from 10,000 to 40,000 temporary for 5-year change. Full business expense for equipment, R&D, and manufacturing. Expanded pass-through deduction for LLCs, S corps, and partnerships. That's not a big deal. But the point is that the tax cut for the wealthiest of our country doesn't expire. That's the major difference. And most of the benefit is going to the upper income, and there will be an increased burden on moderate to low income. So the middle class is going to get hit very hard, very hard.
Yep.
Oh, the major spending allocations. This is interesting. This is interesting. What was that Project 2025 you're talking about?
I think something like that.
Yeah. Major spending allocations: 150 to 350 billion to Department of Homeland Services and ICE for detention, deportation, and infrastructure. I wonder how many government employees own stock in these private prisons. That would be an interesting thing to look up, wouldn't it?
No, that's right.
Uh, that's more than several countries' military budgets for the whole year. 70 billion allocated for border wall construction and technology surveillance. Ooh, that looks like a nice contract for somebody. That's
Oh
what it
yeah.
looked like to me. 150 billion in new defense spending, including 25 billion for the Gold Dome missile shield. Uh, I don't know, Rodney. I don't have a military background. You may be able to help me out with that one, but that's a lot of money
It's a
for.
lot. Yeah, it's a lot of pork. But go ahead.
Okay. I was wondering. You would know better than me on that one. 12.5 billion towards air traffic control modernization privatization. Now that I do applaud. That I do applaud because we need to do that. From all of the recent plane crashes and problems at the airports, that was one of the things they pointed to. So I'm very glad that that's
Yeah, but
being
once
done.
again, though, Rodney, not to cut your flow, but once again, he's fixing the problem that he created. But go ahead, brother.
Well, that's how we do in this world.
Oh yeah.
25 billion rural healthcare fund to stabilize critical access hospitals. That's being done because of the big drop in the safety net as it relates to the Medicaid funding being cut. So 25 billion probably won't even touch the impact that's going to be needed for rural hospitals based upon the devastation in the Medicaid program. Oh, here we go. Social safety net and welfare changes. Excuse me. Medicaid, $35 monthly copay is introduced. 80-hour monthly work requirement now includes parents of teens. 80 hours per month work requirement. A lot of these folks are disabled. They're
Yep.
old people, young
Yep.
folks that can't work. The ACA, the Affordable Care Act, extends automatic renewals as burdensome documentation that could lead to significant loss of coverage. Elimination of most green energy subsidies and electric vehicle credits. This was the big issue that Mr. Musk had with the bill. I'm almost done.
Yeah.
Impact assessment. It's estimated that 17 million people could lose health care coverage nationally. 3 to 4 million Americans may lose food assistance through SNAP. 3 to 4 million. Lowest income household projected to lose $1,500 to $2,000 annually in net benefits. I mean, if you're at the poverty level, how is this going to impact your family? It adds between 2.4 trillion and 3.3 trillion to the federal deficit over the next decade. Now, I saw a letter that the Catholic bishops in the United States, with the Pope's blessings, sent to the Senate before they passed the revised bill. And basically, they were saying that anyone that would take these safety nets away from poor, disabled folks and food from children are not Christians. So this whole Christian nationalist and Christian conservative movement, this is not about pro-life. Kids are going to die behind this. And we're going to blow the national debt in the process. That's what
Yeah.
this bill does.
Yep. The evangelicals. Mhm.
Yep. In closing on my read, strategic considerations, strong pro-business and high income tax relief focus. Again, high income. Significant downsizing of federal welfare and social spending. These are the impacts. Political polarization likely to increase in key states. Sets the tone for Trump's second-term domestic agenda and the 2026 midterm campaigns. Now, you'll notice that some of these onerous provisions do not take effect until after the 2026 elections, 2027.
After the midterms,
So,
right in my notes, Rodney. Yep.
so my brother, I try to be as non-political and as bipartisan and as program focused, policy focused in my analysis and giving you this information. But the bottom line is that people who are not of the upper class and middle class and wealthy are going to suffer from this bill.
That's right.
And I thought, that my colleagues across the aisle were fiscal conservatives. but they blowing the deficit and blowing our debt. So I'm confused. Am I missing something?
Yeah, you know what, Rodney? The only thing that these so-called fiscal conservative politicians that we have in America, federal, state, and local, only thing they're conservative about is the truth, man. They're conservative about the truth, you know. But I had definitely put in my notes to make sure that we point out that a lot of those social network, those social net programs, you know, Medicaid and all of that, SNAP and some of the other things, you know, they're, like you said, it won't kick in until after the midterms next year, right? I mean, what a way to just slap the American people in the face to say, we're just not, you're so stupid, and we know that you're not going to get involved and be involved with what's going on.
Right.
Because here's what they've figured out on the other side. They've figured out, Rodney, something that you heard me harp on so much in one of our previous episodes, you know, when I talked about how in America, they've figured out that the Americans don't care until it happens to them. You remember that episode, Rodney? They don't care until it happens to them. And I gave all of these examples of, you know, of the truth to that, right?
Yes, sir.
And so here's what the thing is. Here's what they know is that after the midterms, that is when they're going to get the boom. That is
Yes,
when
sir.
11 million people will begin to get taken off of Medicaid, right?
Yes, sir.
And so, and like you're saying, even with these no tax on tips and all of this stuff, like you said, there's no tax. You're not getting taxed on it. It's just a deduction. But here's what they know: they're not going to read. People are not going to read.
No.
Rodney, I hate to keep bringing the Project 2025, but we beat that to living death over the fall and the winter of last year. Basically, since we have started, literally started, you know, the Roundup. And so, you know, and had a focus on it. That was our spotlight.
Yes, sir.
That was our whole spotlight every single week.
Yes,
was
sir.
Some aspect of Project 2025. Now I know people don't want to talk about that and think about that now, and I know that we have a platform that don't reach everybody. But listen, I guarantee you that some of the people who were even listening to this platform, who still listen to this platform today, that you know they never actually went and looked into that Project 2025. But you know it's coming back. But also, Rodney, in your breakdown, one thing I want to point out, I read a article this morning. And it was referencing the the big spike in unemployment for Black women, for African American women in this country. Okay. And so what the article talked about, it was talking about how Black women in this country serve as the canary in the coal mine. Man, Rodney, you know, when I hear stuff like that, man, I raise all kind of eyebrows. And I was like, oh, wow.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And for those that are not familiar with the canary in the coal mine, it is no more than, you know, back in the day. I don't know if they still use, I'm sure they got technology now that they don't need they don't need the canary no more. But back in the day, those coal miners would have that canary to go deep into that coal mine. And they know that if the canary died, okay, then, you know, then they know it wasn't safe to go, you know, that deep into that coal mine, right?
Right.
And so and for that author to say that Black women are the canary in the coal mine for America, basically the black woman who is, there's no other person in America who is marginalized and minimized than the Black African American woman in this country.
I agree.
That she serves, that what you see, whatever you see happening to Black women, that canary in the coal mine,
sir.
That is about to hit you.
Correct.
That is about to hit you. And so right now, they are the first ones to start to see this unemployment, unemployment go up with Black women.
Yes.
You know, and I'm telling you something. So I just wanted to bring that out also, Rodney, about what's happening with Black women as far as the unemployment rate. And the last thing is, you know, as far as your whole spotlight, is they are also, with a lot of these programs, a lot of these social net programs, not only are they going to knock a lot of people off of these things after the midterm, over 11 million people on Medicaid alone. The numbers with SNAP, SNAP is going to go away, altogether, I believe. But they're going to make these programs almost impossible to recertify, right?
Gotcha.
You see, Rodney, it's pretty easy to recert now on a lot of these programs, but they're going to make it almost impossible. It's like if you're not, young enough and you're not familiar with technology, laptops and stuff, because this is stuff you're not going to be able to do on your phone. You see what I'm saying?
I understand.
And if you're not, and a lot of these kids are not even familiar with laptop computers. They do everything on their phone. They do everything on their phone. You ask them to do an Excel spreadsheet, you may as well ask them to, dissect the sun. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what? I don't know how to do that. But, and what I'm saying, Rodney, is that that a lot of people are just going to get frustrated at the little bitty money that they're getting. You're getting some, $32 in food stamps or whatever a month, and SNAP benefits a month. You're not about to go through all kind of hoops to recertify for that and take up a full day just to do that. So, they are definitely, Rodney, we talked about this stuff. Again, I hate to keep saying it, but we talked about this stuff in our Project 2025, our host spotlight, and we're still talking about it today. And I guess all we can do is just to continue to talk about it. But if people think that I'm not going to remind people that how much work that we put into trying to get the word out, then I'm going to do that. So, but yeah, Rodney. Yes, sir.
Well, the bottom line is that folks don't understand is that the southern states and the states that depend upon federal funds because they have a high poverty rate in their states. And my friend, most of those folks don't look like you and me. I'm sorry to tell you. These are going to be our Caucasian brothers and sisters. They're going to be impacted tremendously by this. Not just people of color, my friend. And
tremendously.
So if they can understand that the real issue of color is the dollar bill right now and not your melanin brothers and sisters, then we're going to be in a heap of trouble going forward. But there's going to be a reckoning, my friend. As I said, 2027 is coming. And if you didn't listen to us about 2025, then you really need to listen about 2027, because the only way this can change is if Congress changes and they have the ability to change these laws and do an override of a veto. So we're in a real pickle. It seems like this is going to happen no matter how many seats we get, unless we get a supermajority to overcome a veto. I don't know how that's going to happen. It's going to have to be a complete revolution of conservative voters, Republican voters, to see that they've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray on the 2024 election results. So that was the point I wanted to get across, that it's not just an attack. It's an attack on poor people. And poor people, the only color they have is a lack of money. It's not whether they're Caucasian, whether they're Asian, whether they're African American, whether they're Hispanic. It has nothing to do with that. It has the only color it has to do with is the lack of the dollar bill.
And Rodney, it is really just as simple as well. They know that. So, like you said, it's an attack on poor people.
Yes.
But if they can move as many middle class people to the poor category as they can, right? If they can move as many of those people as they can to the poor category, let me tell you something, Rodney. Here's what they know. They also know poor people don't vote.
That's right.
Poor people don't vote. Let me tell you something.
Giving up hope.
Hey, it is, am I saying that no poor people vote? Absolutely not. No. But what I'm saying that generally poor people don't vote. When you are worried about the basic needs of life, food, shelter, clothing, you are not about to try to track down why your name dropped off some roll, right?
Exactly.
Because right they're doing right now is the great purge. They are purging so many. If you move, if you did anything, if you're a young person,
if you didn't vote
in the last election,
that's unconstitutional.
Absolutely, they don't care about the Constitution. You know what I'm saying? And and the Supreme Court said, hey, don't worry about the Constitution. If the Supreme Court already said, don't even worry about the Constitution. We got you. And so as far as the executive branch, the president, and so So Rodney,
Right.
it is they're doing the work now to
Yes,
put
sir.
as many people in the poor category as
Right.
they possibly can, because poor people don't vote. And just like, when you was talking about, this is about to affect so many Caucasian Americans are about to just have the craziest wake up call. They
Yes,
are about
sir.
to get pimp slapped, bruh.
Yes, sir.
They are literally about to get pimp slapped to woke, as they say, right?
Yep.
And because at the end of the day, just like with Bull Connor or whoever it was, the Alabama governor or whatever, said back in the day, if you make and I'm messing up I'm paraphrasing here, but if you make a poor white man believes that he's is smarter and have more money or smarter or better than the richest black man, then you can rob that white man's pocket blind.
Yes,
And
sir.
so that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
These a lot of these sayings that these people said back in the day, people that look like me and you, people that don't look like me and you, although they said some harsh things, right?
Yes,
The people
sir.
that don't look that does not look like me and you,
Yes, sir.
but guess what? Those things holds true to the day, just like those beautiful things that Frederick Douglass and Dr. King and Fannie Lou Hamer and so many of them
Yes.
said back in the day.
Yes.
That crazy weird stuff holds true too. Rodney, that hateful
Yes,
stuff,
sir.
it holds true too. So
It does,
so
my
yeah,
brother.
they like you said in the South, you got New York City, your home state, and you got New York and you got California taking care of so many southern states that
That's correct, bro.
we need to call them,
That's
that's the baby daddies, man.
You're right.
New
You're
York
right.
and California is
Right.
southern states baby daddy,
Yeah.
not so much maybe Georgia, because Georgia have an abundant, economy, and
Right.
everything or whatever. So many different,
Right.
like Omar talked about. But your Alabamas, your South Carolina, your Mississippis, your Louisianas, and your Arkansas. I mean, it's just go on and on and on, man. You got two states that are taking care of these other states because they absolutely take way more money from the
Yes.
federal government than they put into it. So,
Yep.
hey, great host spotlight.
Appreciate it,
Go ahead.
man. Appreciate
Yeah.
it, my brother. Yeah, well, rural Georgia's going to get hurt, bro. Very hard.
Oh yes, rural
by
Georgia is
all of
definitely
this,
going to get by all of
you
this.
know. And the
Rural
tariffs,
everywhere,
the tariffs
rural
is
everywhere going to get
and the tariffs is going to affect the ports in Georgia. So all of these policies have an impact that's not positive, and I don't understand how this is benefiting and making America great. I don't understand that. It's making our former enemies greater. It's alienating our allies historically. It's hurting our farmers. You cut SNAP, bro. You cutting out a supply of farm goods. So we're cutting our nose off to spite our face, and somebody need to wake up and understand who is being served by these policies. And on
You
that,
know what, Rodney? And you know what, Rodney? They actually think that Donald Trump. I hear so many, even black people. I hear so many black people talking about, oh, we just got to get that man out of office. I hope something happened to him and all this other kind of stuff, right? If you actually believe that
Mm-mm.
Donald Trump is smart enough, okay, to pull off what is going on in America, to pull out and right in your face, the place is becoming a plutocracy. Just right in your, they're just like they did in Germany.
Mhm.
Hitler did it right in their faces,
Mhm.
and this man was Austrian. He wasn't even German.
Mm-mm.
And he was elected. I don't know why people think this man took over something. He was elected.
That's
He
correct.
did it right in their faces.
That's
But
correct.
Germany never forgot about it. They want to allow, swastikas
Right.
and all this stuff where we love our Confederate monuments and all this stuff. We didn't learn anything. But he's
No.
doing it. This man, it's not Donald Trump, people.
No.
It is literally not Donald Trump. This man,
the
the man,
face,
the,
the
he's
mouth.
just the face. He's the puppet of it all.
Yeah.
Project 2025. All I got to say, the Heritage Foundation, Rodney, the Heritage Foundation, the Heritage Foundation, the Heritage Foundation, people. Google it, look it up. That is who's behind all of this stuff. And Project 2025 was started to be written maybe on a pamphlet size back in somewhere around 1980-ish. So Donald Trump didn't even probably know his middle name back in 1980. Who knows? This man was, allegedly somewhere with, Epstein, whatever. That's allegedly. I don't want our show to get, I don't know, this man come and drag us out of our homes, right? Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But at any rate, at the end of the day, Rodney, again, great hot topic, whole spotlight, man, because it needs a spotlight on what's happening.
Right.
I know people are hearing about it. People don't want to know about it.
No.
I've been telling people in my family, outside of my family, that you know what? you can pretty much kiss Medicaid, all this stuff. People
Yeah,
in
bro.
nursing homes,
Your
man,
personal
nursing homes are
insurance is
about to
going
go.
up.
Nursing homes are about to just start closing left and
bro.
right.
I
You
know.
understand what I'm saying? People don't
Yep.
remember that it was
Yep.
just the 1970s and stuff like that. When nursing homes, when it wasn't really a thing. It was like for people who
Right.
had private insurance and money,
Yes.
But
Yes.
our great grandmothers and great uncles and all that stuff, they were being passed around from home to home. It wasn't
Yes,
no
sir.
nursing home,
No,
and
it
so
wasn't.
we have a short term memory.
Yes, we
And
do,
people
bro.
just have already kind of forgotten, Rodney, the way that it used to be. But they're not trying to take it back to the 1970s. Some of them are trying to take it back to the 1940s and 1950s, and then others are trying to take it all the way right back to Reconstruction, brother.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
during that era. So anyway, Rodney,
Oh man, good show,
yeah,
bro.
good show, man. Rodney, close it out, brother.
All right, man. You can catch the Roundup with Rodney and Rodney on the second Thursdays of every month at 7 p.m. Check us out on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts. Until then, we'll keep rounding them up.
Peace, Rodney.
Peace out.
Hey, family. Check us out on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Do you have a show idea or want to be on the show? Shoot us an email at blackmansroundtable@gmail.com. And please, like and follow us on social media.